Yes, good afternoon as we look forward to the first part of Super Sunday. Fulham taking on Liverpool here at Craven Cottage, and to look ahead to it, I'm joined by Jamie Carragher. Jamie, lovely to see you. We were just talking, what a lovely day to be here at Craven Cottage on a Sunday.
It is. I mean, the pitch is absolutely fantastic. Stadium's lovely. I've just got the tube because of the London Half Marathon. Couldn't get here in the car, so the tube is lovely. Lovely walk across from Putney Bridge. So yeah, I mean, getting to know this type of area was lovely. Yeah, and hopefully we get a great game.
Absolutely, and just reflecting on yesterday a little bit, the guys in the studio were just talking about Arsenal conceding that penalty against Everton. A lot of controversy around that. Mikel Arteta saying he was very frustrated it was given against Miles Lewis-Skelly. What did you think of that decision on Jack Harrison?
Yeah, I thought it was if it was a penalty, it was very, very soft. And I'm with Mikel Arteta, I didn't think it was a penalty. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought it was a penalty, and I could understand the referee giving it in some ways, because it was a bit of a mess from Arsenal. I think the centre-back Kivior leaves the ball to bounce. Lewis-Skelly gets himself just caught up with Harrison. It looks like a bit of a tangle. So I could understand the referee giving it, but then when you look at it, it looked, really, really soft. And in some ways, that decision, or those type of decisions, is almost the thing that's wrong with VAR, where you look at it and you say, it's not a penalty, but it's not an absolute howler. So then VAR don't get involved, and really it's just not a penalty, and that's where sometimes I'd like them to, VAR just to say, it's not about like the referee making a horrendous decision. It's not a penalty. You make that decision, you move on.
That still leads to all of us talking about VAR once again every weekend.
Well, if they didn't make mistakes officially, we'd be out of a job, wouldn't we? So.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Fulham-Liverpool game, though, of course. And if we start with Liverpool, I mean, they would have seen that result, of course, yesterday. I mean, you've said for a while that this title race has felt over, but if they are able to win this afternoon against Fulham, I mean, they'll be pretty happy extending that lead to 14 points.
Yeah, I think the big one was the Everton game. Midweek on the back of Arsenal playing before Liverpool and winning, and Liverpool's sort of last couple of games not going great, really. So I don't think it was so much the points difference between the two teams. It was almost to have Liverpool's legs fallen off. Are they sort of going to sort of limp across the line, or could Arsenal catch them? But I think the fact that they beat Everton, big Merseyside derby, I think that just gave everyone the confidence that Liverpool will go on and win this league. Now, I didn't feel that Arsenal would win at Goodison. I didn't actually feel Liverpool would win here today. I thought it would be a weekend where both teams drop points. So up until now, I'm right on 50%, and that we'll see how today's game goes. But listen, Liverpool have won the league. I think everybody knows that now. And I think if you're an Arsenal supporter, Arsenal player or coach, the focus has to be on the Champions League.
Absolutely, but with the title race, Jamie, I mean, can you just put what Liverpool are doing into context with, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've seen title races 1 point, 3, 4 points difference between first and second. I mean, no matter how the other teams are playing, Liverpool have still had to win all of these games consecutively. I mean, it's been mightily impressive by arneslot, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, people start, and I think a lot of it is social media, a narrative starts building about, is this league as strong as it has been in, previous seasons? I mean, it's difficult how you quantify the strength of the league, really. If the top teams have dropped off, there's no doubt about that. I don't think Arsenal are the same as they have been the last couple of seasons, and that's mainly down to injuries, but they didn't have injuries the last 2 seasons. That's one of the reasons why they pushed Man City, as far as they did in both campaigns, because they didn't really have any of the first choice 11 injured. City are not the same, we know that. But then the teams from sort of 10th up to sort of the top 4, I mean, they've been fantastic this season. Fulham have been one of them. So does that show the strength of the league, what the mid-table teams are like? It is difficult, as I said, to quantify. But what Liverpool are doing is what title-winning teams do. They get to this stage of the season losing 1 or 2 games. That's what the great Liverpool teams of the past under Klopp did, and Guardiola with Manchester City. The points they've got is the same as what all these top teams are getting. The games they've won, they're on a 25-game unbeaten run in the Premier League. When you think of what title winners do in any era, in any season, they're the type of numbers that they put up, and that's all Liverpool can do their own job.
Absolutely, and like you said, this should be a huge game for both teams, because Fulham are chasing that European football place. If they win, they could go up to 8th. Just wonder with Marco Silva, when we talk on these Sundays, you always talk about coaches. A sign of a great coach is improving players, and Marco Silva has shown that Fulham, hasn't he, quite consistently, I think, with the likes of Raul Jimenez and Adama, for example, this season. How impressed have you been just by his coaching journey? Because it feels like we've watched a player from Watford to Everton, now at Fulham as well. I mean, what have you made of his development?
I think he's a brilliant coach, Marco Silva, and I think, I'm not trying to get him out of Fulham, but I mean, I do think, you know, you're talking about maybe a step up for a team who really believed he could make Champions League positions. I think Marco Silva was definitely a coach that you would look at. I was very impressed when he first came into English football. I think that was a Hull. I watched him there, you know, sort of, what that was now, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He's had a few jobs since then. I always felt he was the one Everton should have stuck with. You know, Everton have changed managers quite a lot in the last few years, and I always felt that he was the one who, you know, they maybe should have, as I said, stuck with. But he's done a brilliant job here. It'll be a tough game for Liverpool. It was a tough game at Anfield. It was a great game, actually. 2-2. I think Liverpool down to 10 men. Andy Robertson going off in the first half. But, you know, Fulham really pushed them, as they have done with most teams this season.
Just to ask you a few about the second part of Super Sunday, if you don't mind, Jamie, the Manchester derby. It feels like this derby has been dominated by the news of Kevin De Bruyne announcing he's leaving the club at the end of the season. Just for you, where does he rank in Premier League grades? Does he make your all-time kind of Premier League exile? Just talk to me about his legacy that he'll leave in the Premier League.
For me, he's been the best player in the Premier League for the last 4 or 5 years. I think, besides Thierry Henry, the best foreign player we've seen in the Premier League. I would go as far as to say that he would get in my all-time Premier League 11. I might get asked that tomorrow on Monday Night Football, or where we're going to rank midfield players, but he's one of the greatest players we've ever seen, you know, grace our shores and play in our league, and not just, you know, the Premier League, you know, going back, you know, how long, you know. And I think when Liverpool and Man City were head-to-head, going for league titles, it felt like 4 or 5 seasons, he was the difference. Liverpool could match Manchester City, I think, in every other area, but that position in terms of an attacking midfield player. And I always felt when Manchester City just got the edge by a point or two, Kevin De Bruyne was the difference.
Absolutely. I mean, a great tribute there. Second best ever foreign player to grace the Premier League. Just the Manchester derby itself, I mean, how are you feeling for both sides? I mean, of course, City chasing that Champions League spot. Manchester United doesn't feel like there's loads to play for in the league, with the Europa League on the side, but can Ruben Amorim salvage anything for next season with these remaining games?
Well, Manchester United have done well in the bigger games, but I think that's the nature of the system that he plays. I sometimes think it can be hard to break down, you know, when someone's got a back 5 and a 4 in front, because when they're playing the bigger teams, they're not as good as them, so they take the role of the underdog, if you like. So people say, well, why do United get better results against the bigger teams? It's almost, you know, creating this narrative that they don't put enough effort in against the lesser opposition, but it's just a completely different game. People expect them to make the game, take the game, go and beat you know, the smaller opposition, if you like, and they're not capable of doing that. They haven't got good enough quality, but it's easier to stop or nullify an opposition, and that's what they've done. You know, they've done that to Liverpool at Anfield. They went to Manchester City and won. They went to Arsenal in the Cup and did that. Arsenal at home as well. It's just, I think it's the nature of the system that they play, but it's a more important game for Man City. Man City will have seen obviously certain teams win over the weekend, since clubs got, you know, good wins as well in the midweek, namely Aston Villa. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great running in terms of who qualifies for the Champions League, and you know, this weekend's a huge one for Manchester City.
You said Liverpool might drop points against Fulham this afternoon. Has your trip on the tube changed your mind at all?
Yeah, I mean, it just puts you in a good mood coming to Fulham, does it? I mean, I wish I'd have played for them, actually. It would have been a lot less pressure than playing for Liverpool, but no, listen, I think it'll be a good game. I think, yeah, listen, I think if Liverpool play well, you know, they'll come here and win. It's, you know, a lovely day, the sun's out, a great pitch, so yeah, I'd expect Liverpool to win. The more I'm here, the more I'm fancying Liverpool.
Jamie Carragher in a Fulham kit. I'm sure that'll get photoshopped on X or something very soon, but Jamie Carragher, thank you so much for joining us. We'll bring you team news very soon here as Liverpool look to extend that lead at the top to 14 points. Kick-off is a 2.
Who is considered the unofficial mayor of this city? Gary Neville. Let's talk about the big news coming into this fixture. Kevin De Bruyne announcing that he will be leaving City at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, what a player. Absolutely incredible player for the Premier League, for Manchester City, one of the very best that we've seen. Quality, and every time I watch him play, it's almost like him and David Silva for a number of years, watching them in midfield together was exceptional. Such a high standard. Reminds me very much of sort of the likes of Steven Gerrard and David Beckham with the precision of his delivery. Trent Alexander-Arnold's another one as well. But yeah, one of the top 5 midfield players, I think, in Premier League history, and someone who's been vital to City in this incredible run that they've had.
Did it surprise you or not that the decision was made by Pep Guardiola and the club rather than De Bruyne?
No, I felt that it wasn't quite right for probably 6 months or so now. It just felt like the the relationship, the feeling, the sort of performance levels as well. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne has not had the season that obviously he wanted, neither of City, but they just felt that something else as well in the background wasn't quite right, and Kevin De Bruyne, I think it's the right time for him to leave. Sometimes it becomes obvious for everybody that the partnership should end, and I think it's that's happened. It doesn't surprise me at all.
This has been considered a low-key derby, but
That's one way of putting it.
yeah, City still have something crucial to play for, Champions League place. And Manchester United, looking to the Europa League to save their season, they surely have to go to Lyon with some confidence and stuff. So this is still a big game.
Oh no, it's a big game. United haven't got the luxury of being able to sort of rest players or think they can do anything clever going into the game on Thursday night. They have to basically build momentum. They've not had good enough performances over the season, and Ruben Amorim needs to build a style of play and get these players used to his system, and still sort of having some teething problems, struggling to score goals. It's really important for United, and for City it's vital that in a season whereby they've dropped off so dramatically, if they can win the FA Cup and get into the Champions League, that's still a really good season. You know what I mean? I used to think that at United we had bad seasons, but then when you look back and you think you won an FA Cup or you won a League Cup or you won something like that, you still sort of got that momentum of having a medal around your neck and being on the podium. So City have got some work to do. They've obviously got a big game in the semi-final and they've got some important league games left, but if they can do those two things, I still think there would be something to sort of say that City have done well, even in a difficult season, challenging season for them.
In terms of Amorim, did you like his assertion this week that he's not here to wait around, he's not going to take years to say he needs to deliver success to United, he's in a rush, he wants this club restored and he wants to be the man to do it? So essentially he's putting the pressure on himself.
I think he just knows the reality that if it's like this next season, then he'll be in trouble. Because I think the reason, obviously, at this moment in time, he's having some sort of what would be leeway given to him, and rightly so, is because obviously he's inherited a group of players who are already down and out, and they've continued to get worse. He's implementing a new system and a new shape partway through a season, which is always challenging. He's not had a pre-season with them. He's not had a proper chance to be able to sort of cultivate the squad and make it what he wants it to be. And his squad is so unique that you do need specialists. Those two players that he's looking for behind the striker, obviously the three centre-backs that he'd like, the wing-backs, they're positions that Manchester United really haven't had. I mean, you're playing with Dalot and Mazraoui in these positions most of the time, or Amad Diallo. They're not perfect wing-backs. He's brought Dorgu in, who's obviously a little bit better at it. The two behind the front player, United haven't got players that suit that at all. I mean, Bruno half does it well, but even he's better, I think, a little bit deeper like he's been in the last few games. So for me, there's a lot of work to do for him to get to a point whereby he's comfortable, but he knows that this time next year, if United in the bottom half of the table, that he won't have that luxury of being able to sit there and say, I'm building for the future. He has to deliver a good season next year. Now, that's not winning the league, but they have to get back up towards the Champions League with the amount of investment that's gone into the squad.
Before we get to next season, something United have to immediately improve on is their attack. Really poor in the final third, fourth worst conversion rate in the division. Amorim says it's because the players wanted that badly that they're making decisions out of desperation rather than with their quality. A game like this tends to suit them better though, when they can play in a low block, work on the transition and play on the counter.
Yeah, that's been the same for 5, 6 years, 7 years. When going back to Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even Erik ten Hag, who wanted to be on the front foot, they've ended up being better when they've actually sat back and counter-attacked. No Manchester United manager other than Louis van Gaal since Sir Alex Ferguson has been able to dominate big matches with possession, and that's a real problem. I've got another take on the player. The players up front just aren't of the quality that are required at the club. I mean, that sounds really harsh, but it's the truth.
How do United rectify that then? Because we know finances are so tight. So where do they get an elite forward from? How do they afford him? Or do they have to go young again, but that's not worked out?
It's difficult. It's going to need smart recruitment, and that means getting players out for good prices, which is going to be challenging with the wages that they're on, and getting players in under value, which everyone else is trying to do in the whole league, in the whole of Europe. I was talking up there before. You could field 4 players that are not at Manchester United anymore. You could put Elanga, Welbeck, Rashford and McTominay behind them, and I think they would do a lot better than the current players that are at the squad if you put them 4 up front in sort of a 3 and a 1 behind. So Manchester United have let players go. I'm not saying those players are the right solutions for United in the long term either, because they've been let go, rightly so, for the reasons that they have been. But they've replaced players that weren't at the standard and weren't performing at the level with players who aren't even at that level. And it's really obvious for everybody to see, because every time I watch your Welbeck at Brighton, or I watch McTominay, or I watch Rashford at Villa playing as he is, and you see Elanga at Forest, I think to myself, they're better players than the ones that are operating out there for United at this moment in time. So the recruitment, when they've tried to get rid of players that they maybe thought weren't the standard, and they've tried to bring in players that will be better, have ended up being worse. And that can't happen. That's why Manchester United are in the position they're currently in.
One of the key questions that has been asked is whether Manchester United should keep or sell Alejandro Garnacho. Now, based on what you've been saying, where would you fall on that debate?
The issue is you end up losing faith with everybody in the end. When you're questioning yourself like United are, you end up sort of doubting everything and everybody, and you're not quite sure what fits and what doesn't fit. And that's been the same for 10 years. Someone's going to have to make a decision on that. You know, it's being mooted that Garnacho, Mainu are for sale. That's obviously for different reasons than maybe quality. Or is it because the manager doesn't think they fit into his squad? That's the problem you're going to have in this next few months in the transfer window emerges and these players become available. United fans are going to be really sort of sceptical of the fact that it's financial reasons these players are being let go rather than professional and football reasons. So that is the issue the club have at this moment in time. They're going to need good communication over the summer about what their strategy is. I think Ruben Amorim is going to have to be at the heart of that, because he's going to have to communicate why players like this are potentially leaving the club. They're young, obviously academy graduates. That's something that United, it's very important to the club. So am I fully happy with Garnacho and his performance levels? No, I think that he's inconsistent. But then I've never known a winger that's come into the club. Very unusual to find a winger that's consistent straight away. Saka at Arsenal is an absolute unique proposition as a player, where he comes in straight away and he delivers 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, 9 out of 10. His lows are never 4s and 3s. His low is a 6, where he still works really hard. Garnacho does hit real lows in his performance levels and his consistency. So, but that to me, that's not unusual for a young winger. That's how I would expect it. And the greatest player probably of all time that's played for this club, Cristiano Ronaldo, was very inconsistent in his early years. I'm not comparing them, but I'm just saying that he had his challenges with consistency. So that's the issue when you're in a period like United are. You doubt everything and everyone.
On that note of great players, Kevin De Bruyne, do you think he'll start today, or is Pep Guardiola not going to go for sentiment in what would be his last derby?
Well, Pep Guardiola won't do sentiment. I can guarantee you with that. But I hope he starts. I want to see him every single time. I honestly think he plays for the wrong club, in my mind. He plays because obviously he's playing for City. But every time I've watched him in 5, 6, 7 years, it's been a joy. And I've said it quite often on commentary. When I turn up to watch a football match and I see Kevin De Bruyne sort of glide forward, deliver those sort of whipped right-footed crosses, honestly, it's a thing of beauty.
Quick prediction?
1-1.
Sitting on the fence. Thanks
No,
very much.
that's optimism. That's not sitting on the fence.
Thanks very much, Gary.
Thank you.
Positives, so much good against Nottingham Forest, but the two things that we saw where Manchester United conspired against themselves is two bad habits that you're trying to break, which is conceding first and then curing being really poor in the final third. So how do you go about trying to fix those problems?
Conceding first, if you look at our season, we improve in that department because we are more focused. But every time we disconnect a little bit, and you can look at the goal against Nottingham was a disconnection. We are there, is the corner, and then we have players for second ball. And then you suffer a goal, and then the game change. You know, that is something that we work on every day in every exercise. No matter if it's a passing drill, they need to be focused. So we try that. And then in the offense, we try to put the players in that position a lot of time during training.
There's so much attacking quality in this team and different sort of dynamic of profiles. Is it more a psychological thing, the issues in the final third where players perhaps are snatching or they're desperate or it's just not flowing, so they're not as calm as they should be in terms of their decision making?
I think they need to spend more time in that position, because some of the games we didn't have a lot of games like Nottingham, like just attacking.
Yeah.
We have to spend more time there. And also in that moment, if you look at Rasmus and Josh and Garner, they want this. They try to shoot, especially Garner. They want really bad, but we are not doing the things with the quality that it should do.
As a head coach, when you've got such a big game coming up against Lyon that could potentially rescue, define this season, but also be so helpful for the future if United go on to win the Europa League, how do you control the messaging around it so that your players still sort of stay level?
That is something that, of course, I'm new in Premier League. But if you are a coach and you are playing in Europa League or Champions League, and then you have to win your league, I had that experience. So it's easier for me. It's like a natural way of working. But the message is just full focus on this game. I don't talk about the next game. So that is the way of me to prepare the players. So let's focus on this game, and then we think about Lyon.
I know you want to focus on the games, but we have a huge summer coming up for Manchester United, and fans will laugh because it seems like every summer we say this is the biggest summer for Manchester United, but it's a really important one because it would allow the basis for you to build what you really want to see. And you've told us already that for you, improvement has to start from next season. You're not thinking about years in advance. So from your perspective, how vital is getting things right this summer, especially in terms of recruitment?
I think it's crucial. I think we are trying to do everything as soon as possible. If you look at the schedule of teams, we will not have the World Cup of clubs, so that means that we are going to have a pre-season. If you look at the next years, we are going to have a World Cup, then European Championship. So we'll have this window is going to be massive to work on our base. So I think it's clear for everybody here that is going to be crucial, and we have to take advantage of that. We will not have a next pre-season. It will not be like that. So we need to do everything soon as possible to be prepared for having everybody for the pre-season to start. After a season like this, we need to show something. That is not a debatable. So I don't want that conversation of we need a lot of time. We need time, maybe to win the league, but we need to improve a lot this season.
Interesting there, because in England there's such a huge focus on transfers and you'll be exposed to it in the summer. Whereas a lot of coaches and managers express the need to see improvement on the training pitch. Like that has to be often even more important than recruitment. I
think everything is connected. You need to be really good on every department, especially in this league. You need to be really good on the pitch. You need to improve our players, but you also, especially in moments like our club, recruitment can change the way we go forward, and can be crucial. So when I say about recruitment, it's not just, and we have to use that as a club, not just the big names and to spend a lot of money. It's not that. Sometimes a player with 17 years old that is in another top club and is finished contract, we can use the Manchester United brand to bring that kids. Sometimes the recruitment is that. Pay attention to these kids that have a lot of talent, doesn't have the space in different clubs, to try to bring them here. And then the academy, we are improving that. You can see that we have some players with quality. I like the fact that you don't shirk the challenge. Like you say, this club is a huge club. We want to win things. I'm in a rush to win things. So instead of other people putting the pressure on you, you're doing it to yourself because you want to deliver. I think it's also my job, and I know myself quite well. I cannot spend a lot of time in the halfway. I know myself. I'm not going to handle this type of life. So I'm all forward, and I really think that in the future we can win Premier League. I don't know when. It's going to take time. You can see the club, but I want to put that pressure on myself because I will not stay in the middle ground and try to use excuses. It's not in me, and I know that I'm not going to handle this kind of life. Thank you so much. Thank you.
OK, we have huge breaking news. We're going to be hearing from Pep Guardiola very shortly. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about a statement just released by Kevin De Bruyne. And it does look like he's going to be leaving Manchester City. He has put a post on his social media thanking Manchester. And we're going to go to Ben Ransom. I have social media statement here, but Ben Ransom, I'm just going to get straight to you, really, because you're at the heart of where De Bruyne has been for the last 10 years of his career. And, yeah, really huge breaking news that he's just announced on his Instagram account.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the news that Manchester City fans would have probably been expecting. It's not been, there's been many months when I've asked Pep Guardiola at various times about whether there's been any update on Kevin De Bruyne's future, whether he was going to be signing a new contract. Well, he has confirmed this lunchtime. He's wanted to put the news out first to tell the Manchester City fans that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season. That social media statement that you've just referenced, Hayley, I can read a bit of it to you now. He pens it, "Dear Manchester, seeing this, you probably realise where this is heading," he writes. And this is very Kevin De Bruyne. I'll get straight to it and let you all know that these will be my final months as a Manchester City player. Nothing about this is easy to write, he says. But as football players, we all know this day eventually comes. That day is here, and you deserve to hear it from me first. Football led me to all of you and to this city, chasing my dream, not knowing this period would change my life. This city, this club, these people gave me everything, he writes. I had no choice but to give everything back. And guess what? We won everything. I mean, they certainly did, not least that treble in 2023, obviously part of an incredible, glittering era of success. The final part from De Bruyne here is, whether we like it or not, it's time to say goodbye. Surrey, Rome, Mason, Michelle and I are beyond grateful for what this place has meant to our family. Manchester will forever be on our kids' passports. That's a nice little touch. And more importantly, in each of our hearts, this will always be our home. We cannot thank the city, club, staff, teammates, friends and family enough for this 10-year ride. Every story comes to an end, but this has definitely been the best chapter. Let's enjoy these last moments together. Much love, KDB. So that's written in his own words. I love the fact it was straight to the point. Anyone who has heard a Kevin De Bruyne interview, been lucky enough as I have to speak to him on a few occasions, will know that he pulls no punches. He can be very blunt. He's to the point. He's a fantastic person to have, a fantastic leader in the dressing room. But Kevin De Bruyne confirming then he's going to be leaving. What he doesn't quite confirm is when that's going to be. Will it be the end of this Premier League season, or will it indeed be post the Club World Cup, which obviously starts a couple of weeks after that? So I guess that might be something that Pep Guardiola might be able to shed some light on when he does speak to us at around, less than half an hour now, isn't it? I was going to say 12:30. It's not that long at all till we hear from the Manchester City manager about this breaking news. But look, there's no doubt De Bruyne will be remembered as one of the true Manchester City greats. That decade has been glittering, as I say. 6 Premier League titles. He's won Player of the Season in the Premier League twice, Goal of the Month a couple of times. He's just been absolutely fantastic in this part of the world. Obviously, winning the Champions League as part of that treble team will forever have his name in the history books. He is a legend of Manchester City. There are a few legends that are a little short way away from where I'm stood now, have statues around the Etihad, and you'd imagine that Kevin De Bruyne may well get a statue at some point in the future.
Yeah, who knows, and who knows what's going to happen next as well for him, Ben, because he doesn't say he's obviously retiring from football altogether. He just says it's his probably final few months at Manchester City and that he will be leaving the club. He turns 34 in June this summer. There had been talk that maybe when his contract expires, he might be a player that possibly goes out to Saudi. Do we have any idea about where he might be going, what he might be doing? Because there has always been speculation, and there's probably set to be a lot more of that now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation on that front, and I think the two most likely destinations would be either Saudi Arabia or the MLS. They're both areas, both leagues where clubs have expressed interest to Kevin De Bruyne and to his people. But I suppose that is the big question, is whether he is leaving at the end of this Premier League season or whether it will be after the FIFA Club World Cup. And as I say, hopefully Pep Guardiola will be able to shed some light. But you're right, he doesn't say he's retiring. He talks about this being a chapter, an incredible chapter of success here in England. But you do feel he's probably got one last throw of the dice. He'll probably want to go and have that final contract. You'd imagine it would still be relatively lucrative in either of those particular parts of the world, Saudi Arabia or the MLS, owing because of the name, because of what he's achieved here on a global scale, but in particular here in England. And I think from Kevin's point of view, I think you can sense the frustration in him. I mean, I think back to that Champions League final when he got injured and had to go off. I think back to the struggles he's had with injury just to get fit for that, the struggles he's had since. He's missed large parts of the season, and when he has played, it has felt a bit stop-start. And you've seen him on the pitch even this season getting frustrated at himself almost, just knowing that perhaps he doesn't quite have that half a yard of pace that he did a few years back. He doesn't quite necessarily have that sharpness, and he has, I guess, the fact he's kept breaking down, not been able to have those consistent level of matches, minutes, performances. Perhaps that's behind this decision. He's very honest, Kevin De Bruyne. I think that's the upshot. As a human, he's a very honest person. He will have been very honest with himself. If he felt he can no longer help Manchester City be the champions, be right at the very top level, which is where they expect to be, then he probably will have had those conversations with his family, his friends, the people around him, and perhaps that's been part of this. So it'll be really interesting, as I say, to hear from Pep Guardiola, to get obviously his instant reaction. Like the rest of us, he'll be digesting this news relatively recently, you would have thought, to find out, first of all, what that means for De Bruyne. Will he stay till the end of the FIFA Club World Cup? Will he be part of that Manchester City team looking to try and add another historical trophy to their cabinet, to this era? Will he depart before that? What conversations they've had and what's behind this decision? Because, as I say, Pep has always said it's been down to the club and to Kevin to come to an agreement if they want to. He did say only a week ago that he would like him to be here as a Manchester City player as part of that FIFA Club World Cup. I asked him that directly. Would you like him to be part of that team? He said, yeah, absolutely. He's a Man City player. He knows what Kevin can bring. Unfortunately, we haven't seen necessarily the very best Kevin De Bruyne for a little bit of time, and it feels like that probably is behind this decision this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. We really look forward to being back with you at 12:30, Ben. Thank you. Yeah, reacting to the news, incredible servant to the club, Kevin De Bruyne is set to leave. The gantry. Thoughts on the game, Gary? You said that there'll be plenty of these in a title-winning season.
Yeah, it wasn't spectacular from Liverpool, but that wasn't the most important thing tonight. They were really professional, particularly after they scored the goal. I thought they were outstanding. I think they've done that quite a few times this season, where they've kept the ball really well, managed the game. Everton really couldn't get any momentum. And the most important thing was the 3 points. Just obviously after what had happened a couple of weeks ago, it would be a long couple of weeks for the Liverpool players, for arneslot. But tonight they'll go into that dressing room and they'll sort of know that they're nearly there, and it'll be about making sure they don't make mistakes now.
First 1-0 win for Liverpool at home in the Premier League for 2 years, which shows that they're doing it in a slightly different way, maybe under arneslot.
Yeah, like I say, I think that I'm stunned at where Liverpool are. I don't think we can rewrite history now and start saying because they've lost the Carabao Cup final, because they've gone out of Europe, this is a half disappointing season. This is an unbelievable season. To take over from Jurgen Klopp, a massive personality and character, who almost in some ways was, loved beyond words by Liverpool fans. You just thought there was going to be a drop-off. Everyone thought there would be a drop-off. I certainly did.
Thought or hoped?
Both. But to be fair, I actually thought there would be, genuinely. I just thought there's no way those Liverpool players would be able to react the same to a man who they've become so accustomed to sort of loving and getting used to. The style of play, the way in which he was. But Slot, because he's the absolute contradiction of Klopp in terms of his composure, his smoothness, his calmness, he just seems to be perfect in terms of what Liverpool needed this season. You've got to give it to everybody who appointed him, but also to the manager and the players.
Can I just ask you about the run-in as well, when Liverpool have this 12-point cushion? You've been in comfortable situations in Premier League title races before. How difficult or otherwise is it to maintain your focus?
I don't think this is difficult for Liverpool, and that's not me sort of making it sound like it's easy. I think when you've been there before, like a few of those players have, And don't get me wrong, Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, they deserve a second Premier League title for how great players they've been. They've been knocking on the door of City for many, many years, and just because of City's brilliance, they haven't won 2 or 3 before. So I think they'll be really comfortable. I don't think there'll be any panic whatsoever because of those 5 or 6 senior players who've been there before and know to get over the line.
Will there be a sense of, look, it'll happen when it happens, or will they just want to get it done ASAP?
No, I think it's important they do it quite quickly because I think you don't want that sentiment to build that it's been a poor season, Liverpool are just getting over the line, and sort of the fact they've gone out of Europe, the fact they've been obviously beaten by Newcastle. I think now it's really important they get it done quickly, that they win games. And tonight was the important part of that because it was tough tonight. Everton made it difficult for them. But I thought they handled it well in the second half. First half wasn't great, but second half I thought they played really well.
Hell of a boost just for the fans in general, and the season is kind of a bit on the Champions League, if you would say, because I do feel Liverpool will kind of run away with the title.
And it was something else, that reception when he came on. He'd been out for 101 days. He gets a goal inside his first 7 minutes back. But it just seemed to be an energy that kind of coursed through the veins of the supporters, then into the team as well.
I know, I just went out to warm up, I was stretching, and I thought they scored. That is honestly how loud it was. I haven't heard anything like it, to be honest. So I knew Saka was obviously a fan favourite and a star boy. He came through the system, but no, it was amazing to see, to be honest. And no, I'm happy for him because it's a bad injury that he had. Hopefully rehab's gone right because you never know with hamstrings and electric players, things can happen again. I mean, yeah, it's kind of meant to fall to him, and I was warming up at that point as well. So no, it was amazing for the Arsenal fans, and it's good to see him back. It's good for the Premier League. And will he start against Real Madrid? Maybe. I think they might chuck him in.
Well, I mean, Danny, you look at it, that's his 68th goal for Arsenal in all competitions, but the first ever that he scored as a substitute, which just underlines his importance to this Arsenal side. And when he comes on in that game, when you see him normally for Arsenal, he just causes the players around him to raise their games as well, doesn't he?
Well, he's a threat. He's one of those players that he's got pace. He wants to get the ball and run at people. He makes things happen. And that's not always just for himself. There's other players. If he makes a run in behind, fullback drops, defence drop, someone else can drop into space. Odegaard can find more space in those areas. That they haven't really had that threat, and they've lost something because of that. Had he have stayed fit, would they have got closer to Liverpool? Probably, but I don't think close enough. I think Liverpool, you have to say, have been superb this season. They've been fantastic in the league, especially. Mercy's right. They're not going to lose 4 games. And even if they do, Arsenal still have to win every single game.
Exactly.
Of that. The title is pretty much theirs. It would be the biggest collapse of all time if they didn't win it. But they'll just keep going. Obviously, they'll be a little bit disappointed. They're out of other competitions as well. But obviously, the league in Arne Slot's first season is something special. So that's really important. But Arsenal, there's just something missing. It's very, very difficult to put your finger on what it is. Everybody's had injuries. Everyone has to deal with injuries to key players. But from Arsenal, that X factor's just missing to get them to win a title.
And just as Saka comes back, Jay, last night Gabriel picks up an injury. We had to find out how long he might be out for. It didn't look a good one. It looks like yet another hamstring injury for Arsenal this season. In the same way, it was a blow going forward having Saka out for so long. Because of that relationship, particularly with Saliba at the back, how big a blow is this in terms of their Champions League aspirations, first of all?
Yeah, I think it's a massive blow. I mean, I was talking to Merce off air, and we were saying that partnership is what is making Arsenal's backline so good. I think when one of them is missing, it's never as strong. And from my point of view, if I was playing against both, Saliba and Gabriel, I would prefer to play against Saliba than Gabriel, because when I look at the way Saliba plays, he's a rash. He's always tight to you. He's always bothering you. He's always getting involved in that physical battle. Where when you look at Saliba, he's more of a player. He'll like to run things out. So it's a massive blow. Again, Arsenal have got another injury, going against Real Madrid next week as well. It's going to be tough for Arsenal to go and win that game now without him playing.
And Merce, Andrea Berta, we spoke about him on Soccer Saturday. The new sporting director was announced on Sunday. He was out the game last night. I mean, listen, the obvious priority, because we've talked about it for so long, is getting a striker in during the summer. In terms of what else should be top of his in tray as he starts his job, what are they for Arsenal?
I just think that's the main one first. I think they've got to get a centre forward over the line. I think they've got to bring in a top draw centre forward and then go from there. I think that's the first before they start.
Do you think his arrival aids that? in terms of getting them out there.
I think the quicker they get in the sporting director, the better. You know, I think Edu was brilliant at the club. I think, you know, they had a lot more successes than not successes with their signings. You look at them and look at Man United, it's chalk and cheese. So they need to get someone in, long as they work with Arteta. You know, I think that's important when the manager and the sporting director get on. And if they both sing off the same hymn sheet, they need a forward. And if you look at it at the moment, the forwards that are being touted around, they're all 6'2". Yeah. They're all big lads. So, you know, they're going in that direction. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to go for a Jesus again. You know, they're going to go for that centre forward with a bit of presence about them.
And I mean, what he has done is incredible as well to replace, you know, the type of manager that he has at Liverpool, and then to go and which looks as if he's going to, you know, win the league. But you would expect Liverpool to be up there, and you know, you would expect him to be up there challenging. You know, maybe the drop off from Manchester City, the injuries that Arsenal have had. Liverpool have been excellent. They've been consistent. But you've got to take into consideration Liverpool would be expected to be in and around there. Maybe not flying high at the top of the table, but that's where they would expect to be, the top end of the table. Nottingham Forest last year, you know, wasn't a great season from them. They've improved. Semi-finals of the FA Cup. There is not one team in that Premier League right now will want to face Nottingham Forest the way they play. I mean, they can take the game to you if they want. They've got creative players that can cut you open, but they can also sit in. They're quite happy to defend and hit in the counter-attack, and that is down to you know, unbelievable coaching. And you know, for me, that's why Nuno is ahead of everybody right now.
Yeah, so going forward, we can see what they can do, especially on the counter. But defensively, just how good are that? Dalot had a free header, which you look at it and it's Forest allowing someone to have a free header. I've never seen that before. Are they defensively the best team in the league right now?
Well, I mean, I think Crystal Palace and the top two are the only ones that's got better goals against them this season. But you know, when you go from the way that Nottingham Forest were losing goals to all of a sudden that's totally changed, you look at their back line. And it was disrupted last night as well. Then they had to make a few changes. Nuno then went and changed the shape as well to make sure that you know, everybody that was on the field was comfortable. And I mean, I know Manchester United end up having a couple of chances towards the end with the long distance strikes. But you know, Forest were pretty comfortable within. I think Sells in the goal has been an excellent addition. When you go back the last few goalkeepers, you know, that they have cost Nottingham Forest points. It's not the case now. The centre to defensively are unbelievable. You know, and a lot of people will say now, will Nottingham Forest be able to keep a hold of them? You've got to say they've got an owner that likes to spend the money. Will probably you know, look at Champions League football and think there's an opportunity for Forest to go and you know, with this new format, pick up points. They're unbelievable at City Ground. They will cause teams problems even at Champions League level because of the way they can play. And if you know, the owner can, you know, get players tied down in longer term contracts, there's no stopping Nottingham Forest right now, because we've been saying it now for a number of weeks, Rob. You know, they're going to fall away. But they keep on churning out performance after performance and just get results. Even, you know, a couple of weeks ago when we think Manchester City are going to town, Manchester City will be looking to close the gap on them. Yes, City might not be playing at the level they have in recent seasons, but it's still a difficult game. Forest find a way to win the game. Yeah. Last night, you know, Manchester United, I know that they're having a difficult season, but we've seen before United could cause teams up the top end of the table problems. I never really seen that last night. You know, it was a pretty comfortable performance. Yes, United had a lot of the ball, but Nottingham Forest, the way they control the games of football, the way that they suck you in, and then all of a sudden the transition into counter-attack, I mean, they're rapid. And that goal last night epitomised, you know, what Nottingham Forest are. Defending solidly and then hitting the counter-attack and punish you. And they've done it to team after team this season. And it's not a fluke. They deserve to be where they are. As I said, there's been a lot of people looked at it now for a few months and said, they're going to fall away. They ain't going to fall away.
Just a yes or no, because to tidy the Forest side of things up, is that Champions League for next season sorted for them, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, I know obviously that 8 clear of Chelsea, but they've got a game in hand, Chelsea, and there's a couple behind them, Newcastle, who have obviously got a couple of games in hand, I think. But you're just going to get the feeling they're all going to be playing each other. And for me, you know, there'll be teams looking at, you know, Nottingham Forest in the past and thinking, yeah, they would be the ones that you'd want to play. Nobody wants to play them now because they can soak up the pressure, but they've also got pace in the counter-attack that can hurt you. They've got players in the middle of the pitch that, if you want to turn it into a battle, they'll turn it into a battle. You know, when you look at Yates and people like that, they're not afraid to go and do the dirty side because they know that's their job in the team. They've got, is he the best player in the world? The best player in the Forest team? No, but he understands his job. And you look at him after the match last night, absolutely delighted. You know, coming through the ranks and putting in the performances he's putting in. You know, it's been a struggle for Nottingham Forest for a number of years. Now all of a sudden they've got up there and flying high at the top end of the table. Nuno has built a very strong team, and I can only see it going one way for me, and that is to continue what they're doing right now.
Signing a striker in the last 2 windows. But is their approach about to change?
Manager Mikel Arteta says the club are planning a big summer in the transfer market. He said that he knows that they need greater strength in depth to compete for those top honours.
The club will be linked with a number of forwards, including the likes of Alexander Isak, Benjamin Šeško, Matheus Cunha and Victor Gyökeres.
The way we planned the 5 first summers, it was going to be very big, and they were going to have different objectives because the turnaround of players and the objective of those windows were going to be different. But now when you're going to go again, first of all we need to increase the depth on the squad, but as well you're going to increase certain quality and skills that we need to now go to the next step. It is going to be a big one, and we are very excited about it.
It's not just a big summer for Arteta in the transfer market. I think it's make or break. It's make or break for him. Because I think if they don't get it right and they're not improving, come September, October, there'll be a lot of pressure on the manager.
I think it's front foot, it's bold, it's aggressive, and it's almost saying to Andrea Berta, here you go and get the deals done, my friend. Arsenal fans know where they want to strengthen, where the club wants to strengthen, and that's up front.
Whether they can, you know, somehow get Isak from Newcastle, which would be a tough task, or maybe Gyökeres. But they're going to have to spend a lot of money to get those type of players in.
They really can't afford to go 3 consecutive summers without signing a centre forward, especially given that Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus are dealing with serious injuries that could affect the start of next season too. So that's clearly got to be the place to go, but the focus will not be just on strikers.
Comedian and Arsenal fan Jack Whitehall, who is giving us his thoughts on his team's chances of winning the title this season.
Well, Whitehall is speaking to us as part of the launch of a new campaign involving England players, which is encouraging children to eat healthier.
It was a really fun campaign. I think the players really enjoyed it as well because it was, you know, tonally slightly different to a lot of the other media commitments that they were doing that day. And Declan Rice and Jordan Pickford came up to me afterwards and was like, oh, that's the most fun we've had in a while up here. And I think they really enjoyed getting involved in it because, you know, it is a great campaign, and the ethos of it is, you know, really positive and encouraging kids to eat better, but also, you know, it was for them an opportunity to have a little bit of a laugh and do something a bit different.
Well, Whitehall was also asked about the title race and said it would take more than the infamous lasagna gate to stop Liverpool winning the league this season.
So he's, of course, referring to the food poisoning controversy that stopped Tottenham reaching the Champions League on the last day of the season. That was back in 2006.
And that wasn't the only laugh he had at Tottenham's expense. In this answer, have a little listen.
Something pretty cataclysmic would have to. There's not enough lasagnas in the world to stop Liverpool right now. But I feel like, I think it's just a case of focusing on I'm not even going to be that Arsenal fan. We're going to focus on the Champions League because we're going to beat Real Madrid over 2 legs with a defensive midfielder up top. But I think maybe we just refocus on next season and maybe Leo Harry came back to the Premier League and win the title next year.
Well, Whitehall is also a big Formula One fan and says that seeing Lewis Hamilton in his new Ferrari red has, well, taken a bit of getting used to.
That's been kind of strange, and I got to do the F1 launch event this year, which was really fun. I got to rub shoulders with some of the F1 superstars and chuck a few stray bullets in their direction as well. But it's nice now that the season started and seeing all of the new storylines and dynamics and twists and turns playing out. I think it's going to be a really exciting season ahead.